Sorting through some stuff here, dig out some more copper motors. Now this is what we come up with after going through all that stuff that we had. There was a few other in there, but we figured this would be enough to get going on. Now some of these are alternators and starters and fan motors. Got various kinds of motors that we could tear into to try to harvest the copper out of. Got a sealing fan in there also. We got some seal units, we got to cut them open because they got a nice motor inside them, and them usually got some pretty good windings. We got a few other odds and ends that got motors that we still have to take off, but we're going to try to rip into this, see how much money we can get out of this and how much copper we can get out of this. I got to start by taking some of them apart before I get going on them. Got a bunch of motors we're going to start tearing apart, get them ready to start taking the copper windings out. Now most of these, well, it's just going to have a little screw on each side, 3 or 4 places that you got to take off. You got to separate the copper windings out of the housings of these motors. This is an old starter we found laying around when we was digging around in that building, cleaning up. This is a little electric motor that was off of something we found in a box. Various types of motors that we got up here. We're going to take them all apart and try to get as much copper as we can. Copper prices being up there past $3.50 a pound, it's not a bad investment to spend a little bit of time tearing apart some motors that you have laying around in your house and make yourself a few bucks extra also. I encourage everyone to recycle and do their part. We don't want the landfills to be filling up when we could put that money in our pocket instead of landfill. Now some of this stuff doesn't come apart too easy, but if you keep at it, like on this one, the aluminum is pretty easy to break. You don't want to have to do that, but sometimes the bolts or screws don't come out, so you got to take whatever measure you can to get the product cleaned up and acceptable to the junkyard. Now if you see on this one, this is a different type of motor. It doesn't have the windings on the armature. It's like a magnet type of motor. A lot of this stuff is tedious to do. Keep at it. You'll get quite a bit done in a short time if you just keep at it. Some of the stuff you can't break apart. You have to sacrifice it. You're not going to get it all, but this is the first stage we take to breaking it down. We get all the exterior pieces off, so it's down to just the copper windings. Now these sealed units, you're definitely going to need a sawzall or an angle grinder or something to cut through this thick metal, because it's really difficult to get them out of there, but it's going to reward you very much once you do, because there's a lot of copper inside those. You can see those 2 tall ones right there behind. That's what come out of the canisters. There's a lot more copper in them. And this is the armatures. Them will have to be burned off, or else you can bring them in like that for electric motors. Otherwise you're not going to get the copper out of those. We got two motors here. I took one apart and I discovered it's got aluminum windings, and the other one we checked beforehand and decided we're going to discard that one too because it has aluminum windings also. That'll go on with the electric motors that you sell instead of breaking them down for copper. Now on some of these types of motors, they have a piece of string around the windings and you have to snip that off first. It's just threaded around the windings in the way, and you have to take a utility knife or a pair of snips or something and cut those little pieces of a type of rope that holds it all together. That's why I put that one aside for a minute, because it's pretty tedious, and I moved on to something a little bit easier. Yeah, it takes a lot of hand wrenching, and trust me, by the time you're done, you'll have carpal tunnel. It's not that bad. I mean, you just can't do that every single day. You got to change it up and do something else, because it'll get to you after a while. That's the measures it takes to get the job done, and you have to weigh it out to see if it's worth to you or not. I like recycling. I don't have a problem with it, and plus it helps pay a few bills for me, so I just keep at it every day because I like to do it. I like to make a little bit of money doing it. In the end, you get pretty decent money, but there's a lot of time that you don't figure in when you're going to collect it, you're loading it, you're bringing it back, you're unloading it, and you're tearing it apart. So there's a lot of unseen time that's involved in it other than just tearing it apart. You have to pick it up, you have to tear it apart, then you have to get it on the table. Now, here's what we come up with. It was about 3 hours we worked on it, and we got 20 pounds. So that'll bring pretty decent money at the scrapyard. You throw that in with a few other things, and there's the going price now. It's $3.50 a pound, so that was $66, and we worked about 3 hours. I want to thank everyone for following along and watching and subscribing, and we'll see you in the next one.